Hey everybody, it's finally that wonderful time of year. It is time for our first cold hardy citrus taste test of the season. Now I'm really excited for this year because not only should we be taste testing a lot more fruit this year and of all sorts of varying origins, but even personally, we have been able to grow a lot of the fruit that we're going to be testing for these videos. So the first one here is no exception to that. This is the Sudachi, which I believe is some sort of hybrid between a yuzu and a mandarin or some sort of like tachibana orange. Honestly, that starts getting into the area of citrus that I'm less familiar with, to be honest. So perhaps one of you guys in the comments can let me know more specifically what the heck is a Sudachi. But all I know is it's yuzu's cousin or some sort of, offspring of sorts. But the Sudachi is quite a pleasant fruit, actually. I have gotten the chance to test it before at different levels of ripeness, and now the fruits that I have before you here are harvested at least the ripeness that I tended to enjoy them at best, and I do believe they are usually eaten at this green stage because as they get more ripe, they do tend to dry out a bit. And while you could still use them for other things and preserves, I do think you want to harvest them at the point where they have the most juice and the most flavor. Now the fruit in front of us are especially interesting because I've been dying to harvest these seeds. I'm not sure how many zygotic seedlings I can get out of a Sudachi. I know it produces a lot of seeds, but a lot of those could be true to type, so I couldn't find too much information about it. Maybe some of you guys know that as well, but I did pollinate these fruit with a local trifoliate orange pollen. So we have huge areas of wild trifoliate orange growing in some parts of North Carolina where they have just kind of naturalized and created kind of trifoliate orange woods. It's really crazy seeing it in person, actually. But I was able to harvest flowers from there, gather a lot of pollen, which I then used to pollinate a few of our trees. Sudachi was one of them, and actually the Shakwasha mandarin is another, because I was trying to create like some new citrandarins of sorts. So I believe this would be a really cool combination with trifoliate, and I think the outcome would probably either taste better or be hardier, or ideally even both, more so than a traditional citrandarin, because this does have those yuzu genetics, which are very valuable for hardiness and palatability. So that's something I'm really trying to work with here, and something I'm going to use in more advanced crosses too. But as you guys see here, we're bringing this back from last season. This scale did really well, and I thought it provided a pretty well-rounded understanding of the fruit that we're dealing with and their varying qualities. So this is honestly going to be a bit of a refresher for me too, because I haven't been taste testing in months, so I don't have any immediate references. So keep in mind, the score sheet here, I may adjust it based on previous readings and recordings I have from last year's videos. So I may compare and be like, okay, I might have been a little off there. It's been a while, so keep that in mind. But of course, we'll go through all these different measures. So we have fruit size, seediness, peelability, juiciness, zest, sourness and pH, bitterness, sweetness and bricks, trifoliate influence. Obviously this has no trifoliate in it, so that's going to be none. Edibility overall, and then some subjective measures like flavor, aroma, and we do have its uses too. What can we use this fruit for? And I have a feeling already this is going to be a very useful fruit. So without further ado, if I can find it here, I do have my scale here. And hopefully this has some battery in it. But we're going to weigh out these fruit here. I have 3 different fruit in front of us here of varying sizes. And this will give us a really good average of your typical Sudachi fruit. Keep in mind this is off of a plant that was in probably a 3-gallon pot and going into its 2nd year. So these fruit could be larger. but this is what I got off of my smaller tree. And it really bared a lot of fruit. Sudachi is extremely productive, and any grafts that I've made with Sudachi have tried flowering and fruiting even in the first year. It's absolutely insane. This plant really wants to produce, and that's a quality I really like. So I'm trying to get some more Sudachi growing. I want to test this outdoors too, but I'm not sure about the hardiness. Yuzu can survive here, but I'm not sure about something with diluted yuzu genetics and not much else that's really hardy. So our larger fruit here is 71.5 grams. Our smallest fruit is 48.9 grams. And our middle of the road fruit here is 58.4 grams. So you're looking at 50, 60, 70. That probably brings us to an average of around 60 grams. So very small is less than 30. Very large is more than 300 grams. I'm going to say preliminary. This is probably going to be somewhere around like a 3 to 4. So I'm going to give it like a 3.5 right now. Keep in mind, I'm going to revise this based on what I was recording last year for fruit in this range. So all of this will be kind of adjusted. It'll kind of be curved so we can make it a little more accurate based on what we've done before. So with that being done, we can probably do a little scratch and sniff here. And I think for the sake of this video, I will test the largest fruit here, just because this should be a pretty interesting view into the Sudachi here. I'm gonna scrape a little bit off of that, give that a little sniff. Oh, that's interesting. So this is not a very common or, like a typical citrus smell I've got here. Interesting. This is really hard to pinpoint. It's very light, and it reminds me of a less intense finger lime. So I'm going to put finger lime-ish. It's similar to a finger lime, and honestly, that's the closest thing I can compare it to. No, I've got hints of orange in there too. Yeah, almost more along the lines of like a navel orange, but not nearly as strong. More like the pith on a navel orange. All right, so we'll taste the zest while we got it. Very mild. I can't say I'm tasting a whole lot. Yeah, that zest is very, very mild. I mean, it's not low quality. It's not high quality. It's not like, wow, that's amazing. Like, it's nothing like a yuzu zest, at least at this stage. Just kind of in the middle of the road. Since we can get a rating for that, I'll probably put it at a, I don't know, 5's too low, 6 too high. I'll give it a 5.5 for now. Again, I'll adjust all these, but it's just hard to detect anything. I don't know if when this is cooked, more flavors could be brought out, but the zest is not amazing. It's not bad either. It has no bitterness, obviously no trifoliate influence, so that's a 10 here. So that's all pretty good. Yeah, I don't know. That's hard to figure out. But let's cut this guy open then, and we could, well, I'll give it a slit here. Let's test that peelability. Sometimes I wait too long to get into this. Get some pretty nice chunks off of there. It's not a zipper peel, but it is easy to peel. You see that? Wow, you know what? I think this first one I'm just going to peel all the way. And then the next one I'll slice in half. But look at that. So that was like that was like peeling a mandarin. I'm I'm definitely going to eat one of these segments like one. That's really funny. Look at that. It's like a pale mandarin inside. So that is the inside of your Sudachi there. Really cool that it can be peeled like that. I certainly don't think the eating experience is going to be the same as a mandarin. So we got all that there. Let's grab one of these kind of middle of the road, slightly larger ones here, and we'll give it that cross-section cut. Now keep in mind too, when you have seeds that you're trying to preserve in here, don't cut all the way in. You will sacrifice some of your seeds. I go halfway in, rotate the fruit, and then you can just twist it apart like that. Now look at that inside. That's really nice there. I want to make sure this is focusing here. Are you focusing? There we go. So that's a pretty nice fruit inside. Now it's not the juiciest, interesting enough, and the first time that we tried the Sudachi, we were actually eating this with fish, and we were squeezing the juice on fish, and we noticed it wasn't super juicy. Now perhaps I already waited too long to pick these. Perhaps that blushing yellow is already too late. I will say I was tempted to, and did pick one when it was greener, and it started feeling a little softer when I was squeezing it. So when it had a little give to the peel and to the fruit, I think it was already ready to use. And we kind of treated it more or less like a lime substitute here. And it kind of fulfilled that role pretty decently. I'm going to smell the inside of the fruit now. Oh, the inside of the fruit smells really nice. Whew. That makes my mouth water. That smells good. It's got maybe even some lemon when you smell it too. It does have a sharpness to it, but it's really nice actually. So love the smell of the inside. The outside is curiously finger lime-like, and I'm curious if we'll get that in the taste, because I could have sworn the first time we tried this, I noticed something along those lines. But seediness, as you can tell, this isn't our seediest example. I'm going to cut one more. Let's find that out here. If you hear a puppy in the background, he's just he's got a little FOMO right now. He's missing out on the fun. And that's another one. We've got a decent amount of seeds in there, but nothing crazy. This isn't nearly as much as you'd see in a yuzu, so I'd probably put that around a 5. Peelability again was pretty good there, so before I skip that, it's not a zipper skin, it was very peelable. I'm going to give that an 8. Juiciness though, as you can tell, the amount of juice actually coming down and falling off that fruit, not a whole lot, but we did get a little bit. These aren't extremely juicy fruit here, so I would say we could probably put this somewhere around maybe also a 5. So we got a couple things here, a couple measures that are sort of middle of the road for the Sudachi here. With that being said though, that's going to be almost everything. Puppy's making a little more noise. I might have to pause this video and let him out a bit. But I think that's almost everything before actually tasting the fruit. So let me go take care of the little man, and I'll be right back. Looks like Tucker here is doing a taste test of his own. He's got a really tasty bone there. Let's see, Tucker, what do you think of the Sudachi here? Tucker likes fruit. Now, if you could eat that, I'm sure you would eat it, right, buddy? Yeah, let's get back to that taste test. Alright, so where were we here? So we got to the point now where we've measured pretty much everything we can without actually tasting the fruit. Without further ado, let's taste the fruit. I think I'm going to slice off a portion here. So we have an attractive little wedge. And I'm probably also going to try one of these wedges that peeled off too. So let's start with this first. That's tasty. Wow. That is such an interesting combination of things. It's honestly not bad on its own. If you like really tart fruit, you'll like the Sudachi even on its own, probably. Got a couple seeds there. Wow, that is a very clear combination, but I can definitely notice some other flavors going on there. Primarily, it is most like a tart mandarin, but I'm also getting notes of lime, even lemon, and I am noticing it here too. I noticed it a bit when I was smelling the rind itself. I did get a little bit of finger lime as well. So there is some sort of component to this fruit that is shared with the limes and finger limes and fruit that kind of have more of those types of flavors. I can't quite put my finger on it. But this is definitely primarily a very tart mandarin. Not extremely sour though, not like a lemon. I mean, in terms of the sourness itself, man, I'd probably put it at like a 3.5 to 4. Well, actually, I got to remember my rating here. 1 is very sour, so this would be more like a 2, 2.5. For now, I'm going to put a 2.5 for the first half of this, and we will measure the pH itself too if we can get enough juice off of this. Besides the sourness, bitterness really is very low, almost non-existent with this fruit. I did not get much bitterness, which would distinguish it from a normal lime here. It is mostly just sour, so I would say bitterness, we could probably put at least at a 9. Let me taste a little bit more. Yeah, that's not bad at all. Hardly any. Give that a 9 or even a 9.5. Very, very low in terms of bitterness there. Now, sweetness and bricks. The sweetness we can measure first. It's not very sweet. There's not a non-existent amount of sugar in here. There's some. I'd give that like a 2 probably on the sweetness. Edibility though, this isn't some dessert quality fruit. You know, this isn't something you're gonna have and you're just gonna eat purely for pleasure like you would other mandarins, but it's very edible. This is at least a 9. I'm gonna give it a 9 just because it is not quite dessert quality. You could make this into a really tasty dessert though. If you wanted to make a sorbet, that would be absolutely delicious, I'm sure. And yeah, in terms of the flavor, so I'll make sure I have this down so we don't forget. Mandarin, lime. Lime is definitely that secondary flavor. And even we get a bit of lemon. It's got like some mixed sour citrus flavors going on there. Definitely, I think too, in terms of uses for this fruit, that could be anywhere from juices to cooking to preserves. I mean, you know, we could put sorbets down there. That kind of falls under like, well, I guess general processing. This is a good processing fruit. I'm sure it has a lot of interesting flavors, but most of those interesting flavors are actually on the inside, which is contrary to the yuzu, which has a lot of interest on the outside of the fruit. So this is very distinguishable from the yuzu itself. Now, that leaves us with just measuring the bricks and the pH here. I will pull out, it's been a while since we've used this guy, our bricks refractometer. This is great for measuring the sugar content in the juice, or I should say the soluble solids content, because it's not exactly reflective of sugar content, but in combination with kind of orally detecting the sweetness, this can give us an idea of how much sugar is in the fruit. So we've got our test drops there. Let's find out what this reading is. which that's falling in exactly at a 10. So that's actually a pretty respectable amount of sugar, all things considered. 5 would be greater than 12, so and a 6 would be a 1. And these probably go in 2 bricks increments from what I remember, so this would come in at a 4. So a 2 plus 4 puts us at 6 total for sweetness and bricks. As you can see, that's kind of how I have this set up here. So I taste it, I measure it, and then together those form the total rating for that category. It felt like the most accurate way to go about this. Now lastly, we're going to see if we can get enough juice in a little cup here to test the pH, and depending how much juice that is, I could even make a small lemonade to finish us off here. But I'm going to try, let me actually get a strainer real quick. I'm going to try and do this in a way where I could still save all the seeds. So we got our strainer here. I'm going to squeeze these all in and see if we could get enough fruit or enough juice for a reading now. These fruit are, you can see how that that peel there, that rind is splitting here. The fruit are pretty tender, even at this stage with how green they are. So you can see why they are used when they're green, because you can only imagine when these ripen much further. I mean, I've had fruit sent to me that were orange, and they were unfortunately basically inedible at that point. Or at least I didn't know how to make good use out of them, / I didn't quite want to. They were just too dry. So we'll get one more in there. I'm not going to squeeze every last drop out of these, but I'll get enough in there for a good reading and a nice little lemonade. We'll harvest some seeds after this too. Alright, so there's our seeds. We got our squeezed fruit, our little sections here, little cutie sections. And here is our juice here. So we have our very high-end pH meter here, and we're going to insert this. Do we have enough to test? We might have enough. Let me check this from below. Yes, I think we do. So, after sitting in here, it looks like we are reading a 3.2. As you guys can probably see there, it's kind of hard to angle this. I don't have a cup that fits this really good. I wish I had one like very close to the size of that so I could fill up more juice volume to reach the actual little terminals there. But yeah, the juice itself reads at a 3.2 pH. So a 5 here would be a 3.5 pH. I have this set up so we're kind of looking for a balanced pH because too little or too much can negatively impact the overall flavor experience, we could call it. So this falling at a 3.2 probably gives us a score of around a 3 here, which is definitely pretty good. That's not too bad there. Because we have, let's see, 1 is less than 3. You see, I should have reviewed this before, really. Or greater than 4 here. So closer to that. Yeah, I'm going to give this somewhere around a 3. Again, I can adjust this later, but based on what I'm feeling now, this is probably around a 5.5 here. So we're going to figure out the total real quick, and then we'll finish this video off, but we've got some really interesting stuff going here. Alright guys, so our final rating for the Sudachi is a 67. Very respectable number there. That definitely puts it higher in the ranks and puts it obviously ahead of any Trifolia orange hybrids. Now I have to go back and see how that compares to Yuzu. That may or may not compare similarly. I have to check, it could even be a little bit higher, but understandably so. The Sudachi has a lot of good things going for it. It is very flavorful on the inside. It is a very productive tree. From what I hear, it's also fairly hardy. We're going to determine that here in Central North Carolina, Zone 8A. there's a chance it could survive, but if we get a harsh enough winter, I don't know how much faith I have in it yet, just because I don't understand it quite well enough. But it's a really great fruit. I couldn't find a whole lot to make out of the zest, but again, some of you may know better, some of you may be more familiar with this fruit, and it's like, duh, Avery, of course this is what you have to do with the Sudachi. You're doing it wrong. So let me know. I always appreciate your guys' comments about these fruit, and again, we're going to have a lot more going this season, so I'm really trying to do my best. We've got a lot going on right now, a lot that we're setting up for future years, so it's going to have a great payoff, but it has made us a bit busy to put out content, so I do apologize, but I hope you're enjoying what is coming out every now and then, and luckily these taste tests are pretty low commitment for me. I can do these in between work, so this is an easy thing to keep up with this season at least. So I hope you guys can look forward to more, and I'll see you in the next one. This was the Sudachi, rating at 67. Very respectable. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.